Now let's bring in CNBC contributors Alex Kantrowitz of Big Technology, Malcolm Etheridge of CIC Wealth. Malcolm owns Amazon. All right, Malcolm, the analyst, one of the best known ones on the street, just set it up for you. What do you want to hear? And what are you going to be disappointed if you don't?
Yeah, Scott, I think Mark actually was looking at my notes a little bit as I was listening to him speak, because I bought
told you
into
he was
Amazon.
Good. I didn't realize he was that good.
I bought into Amazon following their Q3 earnings last year in October. And my expectation was all the bad news related to the overhiring and overbuilding of fulfillment centers and everything else. I figured all that bad news was completely out there. And so with the stock being down about 50% off its highs at that point, I said, it really doesn't have anywhere to go but up from here. And I think it even notched its new 52-week low. I know it's come in somewhere in the 80s at this point, and up until today's move to 110 or so, we'd actually been seeing them hover around that point. But my expectation was that Andy Jassy was going to need something like 12 months, 4 full quarters to be able to identify where the cuts needed to be made, and then make them, and then see what other moves needed to be made and which ones were accretive to the bottom line. And so I think we're still in that window. I don't think all of the cuts have been made just yet. And I also don't think that we're going to hear that cloud computing demand has come back in any meaningful way. It's still going to be soft here. So I don't see them issuing any meaningful guidance that tells people that this stock should be on a run today.
Wow, Alex. I mean, I got one of the top analysts who's got an outperform and 155 on the stock. Not all that excited about the near term. I've got the shareholder now. Not all that excited about the near term. Mahaney saying it's the most challenging time in an awfully long time for this company. How do you see it?
I'm with Malcolm and Mahaney on this front. You have challenges for Amazon on two fronts. You have the consumer not spending as much as they were in the heyday of the pandemic, and that's going to hit on the retail side. Then you have small and medium businesses that are really pulling back, even large businesses pulling back. Anywhere they can find cost to cut, they're finding those costs. And where do you look? You look at something like cloud services, where you might have been, putting budget there and not really thinking, okay, is this being optimized exactly the way we need it to? Now that's being pulled back. So I think, like Mahaney said, like Malcolm said, 18 months is going to be bumpy for Amazon. They have to still get out of this infrastructure spending they did during the pandemic. On the other side, the Fed moderates a little bit, maybe even rates go down. You have predictability in the economy. Some of this evens out. Great times for Amazon. In the meantime, rough.
What about the pressure, if any, and I'm presuming there's got to be some, on Jassy? Now, whether he was left a shiny automobile that was ready to just keep humming, or he was left what looked on the surface to be a beautiful automobile but had a nail in the tire, and it was only a matter of time before the air rushed out and he's going to have a flat that he was going to have to deal with. What's the issue?
I think it's going to be fashionable to be anti-Jassy for the next bit, for the year. And you do see Bezos hanging out, having fun. There's going to be clamoring. Bring Jeff Bezos back in the fold. I don't think that's happening.
Josh Brown was talking about that today on Halftime, that it's just a matter of time.
That's right.
Before Bezos gets off the beach, so to speak, and comes back.
I don't see that. And the reason why you bring a Jassy in is because he's the guy that's going to be in there for the future. Jeff Bezos is smart. He knew that when Jassy came in, he was going to be taking over a company that needed the most help in retail in the short term. But long term, the future was cloud. We're going through the tumultuous era right now where they're trying to even it out in retail. But they just had an announcement on AI, large language models. That's why you have a guy like Jassy running a company like this. Get through the tough part in retail, set it up for the future in cloud. It's the leader there. That's the future. It needs to fend off Microsoft. I don't think you're going to see anybody in a better position to do the job than Jassy right now, and I don't see Bezos coming back.
Well, because Malcolm, I mean, when you talk about the competitors that, let's just say AWS has to deal with, yes, they have the most market share in terms of cloud, but Microsoft is the one that seems to be stealing a lot of the mega cap thunder these days. Whether it's AI or whatever else, they continue to knock the cover off the ball and leave a lot of people, in the dust.
They also have the largest accelerate. They have the highest accelerated growth in the cloud space, meaning they're taking away the most market share from AWS among all of the other competitors, Google Cloud and everybody else. And so I agree with you that there are challengers out there to that moat. I think they have like a 35% market share. So it's not everything. It's not 93% of search, for example. And so I do think that it's important that Amazon figure out ways to divest itself from its neediness from AWS's revenue. And I think that's the thing that I'm most interested in hearing from Andy Jassy, hopefully tonight. What is the timeline for when I can expect those cuts to be accretive to the bottom line?
If
when
only
can
Jassy
I actually expect as a shareholder that is going to be what what turns the ship, so to speak. And can I just say really quickly to the point you guys were making about Jeff Bezos, I think that the most important and impactful thing Jeff Bezos could do for Andy Jassy and also for Amazon shareholders alike is drop the executive title from his chairman, executive part from the executive chairman title. And that will signal to everyone who is speculating that Jeff Bezos is somehow going to come back here and pull a Schultz, that he has no interest in ever coming back. He's moved on to other things.
Yeah, I don't know. Schultz, Iger, some say Bezos might be following in their footsteps. And forgive me, I didn't mean to step on your toes before you finished there. If only Jassy could drop AI 57 times or whatever it was, like Zuckerberg and Meta did on their call. I mean, is that part of the issue here, too? They're just sort of the hype machine is elsewhere.
Yeah. And by the way, I think so. Their biggest competitor in cloud is Microsoft. And you can't argue that Microsoft hasn't seen any benefit in cloud with all this AI talk. In fact, the reason, that they're on the cutting edge, that Microsoft is on the cutting edge, makes people think, hey, should I be thinking about Azure the same way that consumers are thinking, I've been doing this Google thing. What's the deal with Bing? And so maybe Jassy should say AI 57 times on the call.
He might.
I mean, that might be the best strategy. Zuckerberg knows how to talk to the market. Maybe Jassy will figure that out as well.
Yeah. So Malcolm, overall, right, we say this is the last FANG of the week to report. How are we thinking now about this group? Did we confirm all of the reasons why money has been flowing into that space? Or can we make that statement now?
I don't think so. I've been telling you for months that I thought that if there was a meaningful rally and there was a bull market bubbling up under our feet, that tech was going to have to participate in a meaningful way to lead that bull market. And I think that could be what we're seeing. A lot of people probably share that thesis that they want to get positioned properly so that once the bull does start to rage, they don't miss out on things like Microsoft and Amazon and whatever else. But I also think that it's a little bit too soon because all of the data that we've been getting from earnings from big tech hasn't been all that impressive. It's basically earnings expectations that were right on the floor or just above it, and they marginally beat earnings expectations that had been guided as low as they could go. And so there's nothing impressive here in this moment that would tell me that we should be piling into tech and expecting the train to leave the station. I think that over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see some of the air let out of this balloon.
Wow, man, he's hard to please. I mean, Microsoft and Meta would tell you otherwise, would they not?
They would. And look, I think the cool thing about big tech right now is there's stuff to believe in. You think about the AI narrative, you think about them making these moves or going to efficiency after spending a lot of time. They had work to do to please the market, and they've started to do it. Now, the question is, can this momentum continue? That's the big question. A lot of it's going to actually depend on where the Fed goes in the next few months.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, next week.
Yes.
By the way, before I let you go, I don't want to forget that Snap, I'm looking for the paper, Snap reports too. And maybe they have the benefit of not being the first mover, right? They have been the first ones before Meta and before Alphabet to report, generally speaking, at least of late, which wasn't the greatest position to be in because they're the ones who got crushed the last couple of times talking about the softness in their business, what they were seeing from an advertising standpoint too. What do you see here?
Well, look, I mean, if they're looking to be in better position because they're after Meta now, whoops.
Yeah, now I know. I don't even know why I brought that up because now it's going to work against them.
They have high expectations. They're not the same business as Meta. They're an also-ran. Right now, advertisers need a advertising package that they can bring to their executive teams and show ROI. Meta can do that. Can Snap do that? I don't think so. It hasn't proven it in the previous quarters. And now they're going to come up to this mountain and try to say, well, actually, there's some faith that we're going to get budgets after what Meta just turned in. Good luck.
Yeah, well, they got a nice move into the number, if nothing else. We'll see. I appreciate it, as always. That's Alex Kantrowitz joining us there. Malcolm Etheridge, too, both CNBC contributors.